You ever get that sense of what's happening inside you, those swirling thoughts and feelings, has a real impact on what you experience out there in the world?
So definitely. It's a deeply human thing, isn't it? To sense that interplay, that kind of echo between our inner state and, well, our outer life.
Yeah, an echo. I
Yeah.
like that. And it struck me how Buddhist philosophy talks about this idea of a mirror of reality. Not, a literal mirror on the wall, obviously, but more like, how would you put it?
I think of it like this, maybe. Your inner world, right? The whole landscape of your thoughts and emotions.
Mhm.
It acts like a lens through which you perceive reality.
The lens.
Yeah, so what you're holding within, it tends to color what you see without.
So, okay, if you're maybe caught in a loop of like negative thinking, you might be more likely to notice negative things or even, I don't know, draw them into your life.
That's really the essence of it. The ancient teachings suggest that our internal climate, our thoughts, our feeling, even our intentions, they send out these subtle vibrations, you could say. And these influence the events and circumstances we actually encounter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a powerful idea. It can feel a little daunting at first, though, can it? This sense of being so, well, responsible for our own reality.
It can indeed feel weighty, yeah.
Yeah.
But look deeper, and within that responsibility lies profound empowerment.
Empowerment. How so?
Well, it suggests we aren't just sort of tossed about by fate, but that we're active participants
Yeah.
actually shaping our own journey.
Ah, right. It's just the perspective.
Yeah.
From feeling maybe helpless to feeling like you have some agency.
Exactly.
And that really reminds me of Arjun's story.
Mhm.
He's such a vivid example of how that inner shift can lead to like real change in his outer world. He was really struggling, wasn't he?
Yeah.
With feeling inadequate.
Oh, Arjun was deeply entrenched in self-doubt, yes. His internal dialogue was constantly telling him he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And that narrative, it shaped his interactions, his
Yeah.
opportunities, ultimately his reality. It was almost like his low self-esteem was this filter, this lens he experienced everything through.
Right. That constant inner critic just hammering away, I can't do this, or things just never go my way. It's almost like he was kind of unknowingly setting the stage for those exact outcomes.
And what's really insightful there is how those internal limitations actually showed up externally. He might have hesitated, to pursue new things, maybe shied away from meaningful connections, perhaps even subtly undermined his own successes, all because his inner belief system just didn't support the possibility of things going well.
And then that meditation retreat and the analogy, the one about the mind being like a garden, whatever seeds you plant, that really clicked for him, didn't it?
It really did. That image of the garden gave him this tangible way to understand the link,
Yeah.
between his thoughts and his life. He started to see his negative beliefs not as these fixed truths, but more like habits, ingrained habits, like weeds in his mental garden.
So mindfulness became this tool for him to just observe those thoughts as they popped up without immediately judging them or reacting.
Precisely. That non-judgmental observation, that's the absolute key. It creates a space, doesn't it? A pause between the thought and the automatic reaction.
Yeah.
And that allows for a conscious choice in how to respond. Arjun started to recognize that these negative thoughts were just, well, thoughts, not necessarily accurate reflections of reality.
And by consciously choosing them to cultivate more positive, more empowering thoughts and taking those small steps that lined up with those thoughts, his life actually started to shift.
Exactly.
New possibilities opened up. People maybe responded to him differently. It wasn't that the world fundamentally changed, but his internal landscape did.
And this speaks directly to the principle of karma.
Ah, karma.
Which is often misunderstood, isn't it, as some kind of cosmic reward and punishment system.
Right, like what goes around comes around in a very simplistic way.
But it's more accurately understood as just the natural law of cause and effect, operating on all levels: mental, verbal, physical. Our thoughts, our intentions, they are the seeds we sow, and our experiences are, well, the fruits of those seeds.
So Arjun planting seeds of self-belief led to a harvest of more positive experiences. But it's not always so direct, is it? Like a simple one-to-one thing. Life feels more complex than that. Why do we sometimes see, good people facing real hardship?
Life is intricate, absolutely, and countless factors weave together to shape our experiences. Karma doesn't suggest a simplistic, immediate payback or reward for every single action.
Okay.
However, the overall quality of our thoughts and actions creates a tendency, a kind of prevailing direction for our lives. Think of it like a field, maybe a single weed sprouts unexpectedly, sure, but a field consistently sown with wheat is far more likely to yield a wheat harvest, right?
That makes it a prevailing direction.
Yeah.
Which brings to mind that powerful image of the lotus flower, rooted in muddy water, yet it rises above, so beautiful and pure. What's the power of that metaphor here?
The lotus. It symbolizes our inherent potential, doesn't it? To transcend suffering and negativity. The muddy water represents the challenges, the difficulties, the very muck of our lives.
Right. And the fact that the lotus actually requires those roots in the mud to blossom, that highlights how growth and transformation often emerge right from our struggles. We don't bypass the difficult stuff. We actually draw strength and nourishment from it.
So the muddy water isn't something to just avoid at all costs. It's something to engage with, to learn from, find strength in.
Precisely. It's about embracing the whole picture of our experience, the pleasant, the unpleasant as fertile ground for inner development and deeper understanding.
That's a really striking image. It makes me think, reflect on my own life. Those recurring negative thought patterns I sometimes get stuck in, they really can feel like cracks in that mirror, can't they? Distorting how I see things.
And that's such a common thread in the human experience, these recurring patterns. We all encounter them, to varying degrees. The crucial first step is just recognizing them.
Seeing them.
And the really encouraging truth is that, just like a dusty mirror, our minds can be cleaned. These patterns aren't fixed. They can be gently shifted. And that process of cleaning the mirror, so to speak, it starts with mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
But it's more than just generally being aware. It's a specific kind of focused attention, isn't it?
Yes. Mindfulness is the practice of bringing our attention to the present moment, but with a quality of openness and, crucially, non-judgment.
Non-judgment, okay.
It's about being fully present with whatever is arising, our thoughts, our feelings, sensations in the body, without getting swept away by them or labeling them good or bad.
So it's like taking a step back and just observing your own inner world.
Yeah.
Almost with a sense of neutrality.
Exactly. And this non-reactive observation, it allows us to see our thoughts and emotions as these transient things, like clouds passing across the sky,
Oh, okay.
rather than seeing them as fixed identities or absolute truths. And this creates that space for a more conscious, considered response instead of just an automatic, habitual reaction.
And you mentioned it's simple, but it sounds quite powerful exercise for cultivating this. Setting aside just a few minutes each day for quiet reflection. Can you walk us through that again?
Of course. You find a quiet space, somewhere you can sit comfortably. You can close your eyes gently or just lower your gaze. And then bring your attention to the sensation of your breath. Maybe the rise and fall of your chest or your abdomen. As thoughts arise, and they will, just notice them without engaging. Acknowledge their presence and then gently guide your attention back to your breath.
Back to the breath.
Again and again. And after a few minutes, you might gently ask yourself, is this thought serving me? If it feels unhelpful or negative, just gently release it. If it feels positive, constructive, maybe consider how you might nurture it.
That question, is this thought serving me, feels like a really practical tool for consciously engaging with all that mental chatter.
It's a way to cultivate discernment, yes, to recognize which mental patterns actually support our well-being and which ones tend to create, well, unnecessary suffering.
But, like you said with the garden analogy, simply observing the weeds isn't quite enough, is it? Mindfulness needs to be paired with intentional action.
Precisely. Awareness gives us the clarity to see what needs tending in our inner garden, right?
Right.
And intentional action is the process of cultivating the growth we desire. So this involves setting meaningful intentions, breaking them down into manageable steps, and then consistently acting in alignment with those intentions. And it also means consciously choosing the environment, the influences, the people that nourish us.
Right. Surrounding yourself with those flowers of hope, as you put it, rather than the weeds of negativity.
Indeed. And it's important to remember that this path, this transformation, it isn't always a smooth, straight upward line. There will inevitably be moments of challenge, setbacks.
Like the lotus maybe encountering some particularly murky wire on its journey upwards.
Exactly like that. Growth rarely follows a perfectly linear path. There will be times when progress feels slow, maybe discouragement creeps in.
Yeah, that happens.
It's during those moments that the resilience of the lotus can serve as such a powerful reminder. To acknowledge the small victories, and to learn from any perceived missteps or setbacks. Every mindful effort, no matter how small it feels, contributes to the overall unfolding.
That's helpful to remember. So we've explored this idea of the mirror of reality, how our inner world shapes our outer experiences. Now let's maybe delve a bit deeper into what Buddhist wisdom reveals about the fundamental roots of suffering.
Yes, this is such a central point in Buddhist understanding. The Buddha, through his own profound inquiry, identified that suffering, the term is dukkha, arises fundamentally from attachment.
Attachment.
Now, this isn't about not experiencing love or connection, it's about clinging. Clinging to things that are inherently impermanent.
Like what?
Like our desires, our expectations, even our sense of self as some kind of fixed, unchanging entity.
That resonates. Yeah. The tighter we hold on to something that's bound to change, the more pain we feel when that change inevitably happens. You used a lovely analogy before about holding sand.
Yes, the analogy of sand. The more tightly you clench your fist around sand, the more of it just slips through your fingers, doesn't it?
Right.
Similarly, clinging to rigid ideas, fixed expectations, or the illusion that things will stay the same. It creates resistance to the natural flow of life. And that resistance leads to dissatisfaction, frustration, suffering.
And this isn't just some abstract ancient concept, is it? You mentioned it connects with modern psychology too, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT.
Absolutely. At its core, CBT also focuses on identifying and challenging those unhelpful or distorted thought patterns.
Right.
By recognizing and reframing these patterns, we can alleviate emotional distress. It's really a parallel approach in many ways to the Buddhist understanding of how our internal narratives shape our experience and contribute to suffering.
It's actually remarkable how these seemingly different traditions arrive at such similar insights about the power of our minds. You shared the story of Maya, the executive who, despite all her outward success, felt this deep sense of emptiness inside. How does her experience shed light on this?
Maya's story is such a beautiful illustration that external success doesn't automatically translate to inner peace.
Yeah.
Despite achieving so many of her professional goals, she was deeply attached to external validation, constantly seeking approval, recognition, just to feel a sense of worth. Through mindfulness and meditation, she began to see that this deep-seated need actually stemmed from an internal fear of inadequacy. And by turning her attention inward, cultivating self-compassion, she started to release that attachment to external approval. And she discovered a more profound, more sustainable sense of purpose within herself.
So her suffering wasn't really about a lack of external accomplishments, but an internal state, a dependence on those things for her sense of value.
Precisely. And Buddhist philosophy identifies these underlying mental states, the ones that obscure our true nature and lead to suffering, as kleshas. They're often translated as mental afflictions or defilements.
Kleshas? Could you give us a few examples of these?
Certainly. Common kleshas include things like ignorance, specifically ignorance about the true nature of reality, attachment, which we've discussed, aversion, things like hatred, anger, fear, pride, that sense of superiority, and jealousy, resentment of others' good fortune.
Okay.
These act like colored lenses, don't they? Distorting our perception of ourselves and the world around us and really fueling our reactions.
So someone feeling jealousy might see another person's success not just as an event, but as a personal slight or proof of their own inadequacy.
Exactly. The klesha of jealousy colors their perception and fuels that sense of unease, dissatisfaction.
Right. And the practice of vipassana, insight meditation, you said that's a powerful tool for starting to see through these distorting lenses.
Yes. Vipassana involves the sustained, careful observation of the arising and passing of all phenomena, thoughts, emotions, sensations, without judgment, without clinging.
Okay.
It's a way of developing a deep, direct understanding of the impermanent nature of reality and cultivating equanimity.
Equanimity, that sounds like a very desirable state.
It is that inner stillness, isn't it? That balanced, unwavering state of mind that allows us to navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life without being constantly tossed about by our emotions or judgments. It's not about suppressing emotions, let me be clear.
Right.
But about not being controlled by them.
Okay, so how can we take these ancient, profound principles and really integrate them into our daily lives, make them practical? You mentioned 3 strategies earlier. Let's explore that first one. Embracing change as growth.
Yes. Life is inherently in flux, isn't it? Constantly changing. And resisting that natural flow is a primary source of suffering. The Japanese art of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold, offers such a beautiful metaphor here.
Ah, yes, I know that. It's beautiful.
Instead of trying to hide the cracks, they are highlighted. Seen as part of the object's history, its beauty adding to its unique character. Similarly, our challenges, our difficulties, the cracks in our lives, they can become sources of strength, wisdom, and even deeper beauty.
So rather than viewing setbacks as failures or things to be ashamed of, we can actually see them as opportunities. Opportunities for learning and growth, just integral parts of our evolving story.
Exactly. The key is shifting our perspective. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We can try asking, what can I learn from this? How can this experience help me become more resilient, maybe more compassionate, more understanding?
That's a significant shift. The second strategy was the practice of letting go, or non-attachment. And you clarified, importantly, that this isn't about detaching from love or care.
Right, precisely. Non-attachment is about releasing our tight grip, which is often fear-based, on specific outcomes and expectations.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the impermanent nature of all things, relationships, possessions, even our own physical form, and understanding that clinging to them will inevitably lead to suffering when they change or pass away, as they must.
You suggested starting small with this, maybe noticing those moments when we feel intensely attached to a particular outcome and just gently examining the roots of that attachment.
Yes. Often, our attachments are fueled by a desire for external validation, perhaps a fear of loss, or a longing for a sense of security that is ultimately illusory.
Right.
By bringing mindful awareness to these underlying motivations, we can begin to loosen our grip. Even practicing acceptance and finding contentment in the present moment, maybe in seemingly small situations like being stuck in traffic, can be a gentle way to cultivate non-attachment.
Instead of immediately getting frustrated by the delay, perhaps just observing that feeling of frustration without judgment, and then consciously choosing to accept the situation as it is. Sounds simple, but definitely requires practice.
It does.
And the third strategy was cultivating gratitude and contentment.
Yes. The practice of gratitude has such a profound impact on our overall well-being. It shifts our focus, doesn't it? From what we perceive we lack to the abundance that is already present in our lives. And research in psychology actually supports this idea. Regularly cultivating gratitude can literally rewire our brains to be more optimistic and resilient.
Wow. And you suggested a simple practice starting each day by consciously listing, say, 3 things we are grateful for. And they don't have to be huge things.
Exactly. Not at all. It could be something as simple as a warm cup of tea, a kind word from a friend, the beauty of nature outside your window, or just a moment of quiet peace. The key is to intentionally direct our attention towards the good that is already present. This practice cultivates a sense of contentment that's less dependent on external circumstances and more rooted in appreciating what we already have.
It really all seems to circle back to that idea of the mirror, doesn't it? That by intentionally embracing change, gently letting go of attachments, and actively cultivating gratitude, we start to see a different reflection looking back at us.
Yes. The true transformation isn't about magically altering the external world to fit our desires, though that might sometimes happen as a side effect. It's about fundamentally shifting our internal perspective, our way of seeing. As we consistently engage with these principles, we begin to perceive ourselves and our experiences with more understanding, more compassion, and more equanimity.
You mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh earlier and his beautiful concept of inner being. How does that understanding of interconnectedness fit into this interplay between our inner and outer worlds?
Faye's profound teaching on interbeing, it underscores the deep interconnectedness of all things. He demonstrated, didn't he, through his life and teachings, that maintaining inner peace is possible, even amidst significant suffering.
Yes.
And that comes from recognizing this fundamental unity. It reinforces the idea that our individual well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of others and the entire web of life. Our inner state doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right.
It ripples outwards, influencing the world around us, just as the world influences our inner state. It's a two-way street.
It's like the ultimate reminder that we aren't separate entities at all. And therefore, cultivating inner peace actually has a far-reaching impact beyond just ourselves. So ultimately, this journey of transformation, of shaping our reality, it really is accessible to everyone through cultivating awareness, acceptance, and intentional action.
Yes. Those three elements work in harmony, don't they? Creating this positive cycle of change. Awareness lets us see clearly. Acceptance lets us meet ourselves and our experiences with compassion. And intentional action lets us consciously shape our future in alignment with our deepest values.
Now, let's turn our attention to this other really compelling metaphor you brought up, the potter's hands. It offers another powerful lens, I think, for understanding how we shape our lives.
Indeed. The image of the potter gently shaping formless clay. It beautifully embodies our role as active creators of our own lives. Each thought we entertain, each word we speak, each action we take, it's like the potter's hands molding the clay, gradually giving form to our reality. We're constantly in this process of creation, often without even fully realizing the extent of our influence.
So we're not just passive recipients of whatever life throws at us, but actively involved in the ongoing process of bringing our experience into being moment by moment.
Precisely. And this realization, when it really lands, leads to the empowering understanding that within each of us lies this immense potential for transformation and growth.
And that inherent potential, that capacity for awakening, that's what's often called Buddha nature in Buddhism, right?
Right.
You liken it to an unpolished gem or maybe a lump of raw clay.
Yes, Buddha nature. It's the intrinsic essence of our being, our innate capacity for wisdom, for compassion, for enlightenment. It's always present, inherent within us, but while it often remains obscured, hidden by layers of conditioning, misunderstanding, those cliches we talked about.
Right.
Like an unpolished gem hidden beneath layers of dust, it requires conscious effort, the polishing of our minds through practices like mindfulness, meditation, to reveal its inherent brilliance. Or like raw clay, it holds the potential for countless beautiful forms, but it requires the skillful hands of the potter to bring those forms into being.
Like the potter needing to patiently work the clay, right? Removing impurities, gently shaping it to reveal its intended form. You shared the story of Sarah, who felt so deeply trapped in her life, but eventually discovered her passion for writing. How does her journey illustrate this idea of our inherent potential?
Sarah's journey is a wonderful demonstration of the importance of recognizing and nurturing our innate potential. Despite feeling constrained by her circumstances, her Buddha nature, her inherent creativity, her unique voice was always present within her.
It was there all along.
Exactly. Through practices like mindfulness and journaling, she began to reconnect with this inner wellspring of creativity. And then she took consistent action, even when facing self-doubt, facing external challenges like rejections.
Yeah.
Eventually shaping a more authentic and fulfilling life for herself as a writer, nurturing that potential that was already there.
It really highlights the need for perseverance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That transformative process isn't always immediate or easy, which connects, I think, with the Buddhist teaching about trusting the process.
Exactly. We live in a culture that often emphasizes instant gratification, immediate results, but true, lasting growth. It often unfolds gradually in its own time. The gentle analogy of the gardener patiently tending to a seed, trusting in the natural process of germination and growth, serves as such a helpful reminder to cultivate patience and trust in our own journey of self-discovery and transformation.
And that's where understanding Anika, the principle of impermanence, can be so helpful in cultivating that patience and trust.
Yes, absolutely. Understanding that everything is transient, constantly arising, constantly passing away. Our challenges, our successes, our feelings, everything, it frees us from clinging too tightly to specific outcomes.
Right.
Or becoming overly discouraged by temporary setbacks. It allows us to focus on the present moment, on the actions we can take now, rather than being fixated on some distant, uncertain future.
So instead of getting disheartened by, say, slow progress in improving our health, we can appreciate each mindful choice we make today, trusting that consistent effort will yield results over time.
Precisely that. It shifts the focus from rigidly clinging to a desired destination to more fully appreciating the journey itself with all its inevitable twists and turns.
Yeah. You also emphasize the crucial role of intention, or satana, as the driving force behind our actions and therefore our karma.
Our intentions are like the initial blueprint, aren't they, for what we create? They're the underlying motivation behind our thoughts, our words, our deeds.
Okay.
When our intentions are rooted in positive qualities like love, kindness, compassion, wisdom, then our actions naturally tend to create more positive, more beneficial outcomes, both for ourselves and for those around us.
And you guided us through a practical exercise to help align our intentions with our aspirations, visualizing our ideal life and creating affirmations that really resonate with those goals.
Yes. That practice helps us to consciously direct our mental energy towards what we genuinely desire to cultivate in our lives, Regularly repeating affirmations that are aligned with our deepest intentions can actually help reprogram our subconscious mind, bringing our actions into greater harmony with our aspirations.
It all seems to beautifully circle back to that metaphor of the mirror one last time, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That the reflection we see is ultimately just a reflection of our inner state.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're dissatisfied with what we see reflected back, the real lasting transformation has to begin within.
Precisely. The external world often serves as that mirror, reflecting our internal landscape. To truly change what we see in that mirror, we must first be willing to look within, to cultivate the changes we wish to see reflected outwards.
And the beauty of it all, I think, is that the past doesn't define us. Every single moment offers a new beginning, doesn't it? A fresh opportunity to step back into the potter's studio and shape our clay with greater awareness, greater intention.
Exactly. Each breath, each moment is a chance to begin again. Our present choices hold the true power, the power to shape the trajectory of our lives.
So for everyone listening, perhaps take just a moment now to gently envision that life you truly desire. What is one small, maybe almost imperceptible movement of the potter's hand that you can make today to move even just a tiny bit closer to that vision? Remember, momentum, like the steady turning of the potter's wheel, it builds with consistent action.
You are the potter, and within you lies the unformed clay of your vast potential. With mindful awareness, with heartfelt intention, and with patient perseverance, you truly possess the power to create a meaningful and beautiful masterpiece.
Let's take a brief moment now, maybe together for quiet reflection.
May you recognize the boundless potential that resides within you, always.
May you find deep inspiration in the understanding that you are the active, conscious creator of your own life.
And may your journey be filled with mindful steps and an ever-deepening sense of inner peace and truly profound possibility.